Hey everybody. I was out here in the garage making a few feeders for our chicken tractors for the meat birds and figured I'd show you guys what that build looks like because we've come up with a design that works really well, keeps the birds from getting into it because they get pretty aggressive, and actually allows for you to have the max capacity of chickens in the tractor because if you don't know, they get really aggressive over food once they get bigger. So if there's not enough room at the trough for all of them, some start to get packed and they get fought off the food, and then you get inconsistent sizing. So you want to make sure everybody has access to food at the same time. So all that said, we're going to be making a feeder for the other side of the chicken tractor because this next run is going to have like 45 birds per tractor, and that's kind of the max pushing it. And right now there's only room for about, I'd say 35 to 40 at the current 5-foot feeders. So we're going to put another 5-foot feeder on the other side, and that should then give everybody plenty of space and keep everyone happy. All right, so you see here I made the first one already. We use 4-inch PVC for this, and it's not cheap. So if you have to buy it, I would still recommend it, but I think it's like $40 for a 10-foot section. It might be more now at this point. But it does work really well. I was actually able to make a trade. When I bought our brooder, the guy had some of this laying on the side next to it. And I said, hey, I'll pay the price if you throw that in for free. And he's like, oh yeah, sure, go ahead. So I got about $100 worth of pipe for free. So in any case, keep an eye out for those deals. That can help. So what you do here is you basically just mark on each side. And I just use a skill saw to cut this and end up with the top right here. Okay. So you see how that's a little bit, this sits on top, and you'll see how this keeps them from sitting on top of it and perching on it and, pooping in the food and stuff. But basically you just want to cut 2 straight lines and make sure that the top is a little smaller than the bottom. As you'll see, the bottom here is kind of where you keep the food. So that gives you a nice food trough there, and you can fit a fair amount. I think like 4 scoops worth in that. So I cut the first one. I measured it. I just used a pencil to mark it off with a straight edge. But then I'll use the top of this one as a scribe to make the 2 others, and we'll cut those, and you'll see how we put that all together. So as you'll notice, when you're making this first cut, it wants to squeeze together because the pipe's under pressure and it'll bind a little bit on you. So you got to be careful of kickbacks when you're doing that. Once you get through that, it's not so bad. You can use a jigsaw or something like this. I've got a skill saw here. It works pretty well if you're being careful. And then I don't know if this is overkill or not, but I'll take a rasp and just knock down the edges on these things because they can be a little bit sharp. I've cut my finger on them before. And again, like I said, these guys get super aggressive. So I don't know, might be overkill, but I always like to just take a real rough rasp and just knock off the edge. Okay, and so now we're doing this, probably my least favorite part of this because it's a lot of small and annoying little steps that you have to do, and that's put on the end caps for these things. So what I typically do is just find some scrap wood, but you are going to want something that's treated. I really like these 1 1/4 inch deck boards because 2x4s are a little too thick. It makes cutting them harder. And anytime you can lower weight on anything, it's better. So this is the perfect blend of like just thick enough. Treated wood works really well. So if you have some of these laying around, great. If not, use whatever you have on hand. All right, so what you're gonna do here is basically hold this up to the edge of the lip and trace it out. That's the simple part, of course, but again, kind of annoying. You gotta hold it up a little bit and make sure you get it right. Now, this isn't finished carpentry, so it's not the end of the world if it's not perfect, but I want to try and get it close. And the reason I hold it up like this is because you want the flat piece of the wood to be at the lip, and you'll see why in a minute when we put this all together. All right, so trace that out. That's one side. Flip it around. Trace the other side. Okay, and get your jigsaw and cut it out. Get a rasp again and kind of get the edges down a little bit because the jigsaw inevitably cuts a little bit angled. All right, that should work pretty well. PVC pipe here and just test fit them. That one looks good. This one also looks real good. Okay. All right, let's get a couple screws. All right, and all you need is 3 screws for each side. And if you're like me, you're like, well, wouldn't more screws be better? It'd be more secure, more tighter, stronger. No. Because when you have to take this apart at some point, you're gonna want less to do, and 3 screws is plenty to hold it. Don't put glue on there, don't put anything like that. This doesn't need to be watertight, it just needs to hold feed. So 3 screws, 1 in the direct bottom, 2 on the side. So flip it over here. So I recommend for this, you're going to definitely want to have one of these bits that pre-drills the holes for you so you don't split the wood, and just makes life a lot easier. Do the bottom first. Don't tighten it all the way because you're going to want some play to put these sides on. Alright, drill that out. Okay. And then we just put the other ones in, make sure to line them up, get them nice and flush with the side. Hole. Again, don't tighten it all the way so you have play to line this one up, and then you can go ahead and tighten it. Side. There you go. See that? And then you can see the other way. It's pretty good in there. Feed's not going anywhere. All right, the next thing to do, thing to do is to make the hanging piece for this. So we're gonna do that right now. All right, for this, pretty straightforward. We gotta drill a couple of holes. We're gonna use some wire with some hooks to hold this up so that when we move the tractors, it's just free floating and swinging. And then you'll see how we put the tops together and everything else. So really this is just pretty simple. Pick somewhere in the center about 1 inch down and drill the hole.
All right, so when we went to put our covers on the chicken feeders, I realized I had run out of materials. So we didn't have wire and I didn't have the turnbuckles that I needed to do the second one. So we're gonna show you guys that today. It's also not 95 degrees outside and I feel much more energetic. So you might notice a difference in the two videos of my energy level here. So what we're gonna do, this is pretty simple. Last piece that we need to take care of to get these done is to create this floating top that's gonna sit on top of the feeder. So when they jump on it, they can't perch on it. And then number two, they can't jump into the feeder because they will do that as well. So this keeps them out and allows them to eat. So you'll see how we do this. It's pretty straightforward. We're just gonna drill a hole through the top of this and run some wire through. Now, I like this Hillman vinyl coated wire. If you were to go buy like copper wire like this, it's like 50 bucks for 50 feet of it, or like 60, 70 bucks for 100 feet. So it's just ridiculous prices for copper now. This is not copper. It's cheaper wire, but it works great for little applications like this. So I always keep some on hand. Connecting an electrical fence around a post or something like that. All sorts of good uses for it. So I think it's about 20 bucks for 100 feet. So it's pretty good. And then you want to get some of these. You can order on Amazon, pick up at the hardware store, loop and hook turnbuckles, mini turnbuckles. So we're just gonna wire up something to hook this to the top of the tractor. And some people say, well, why wouldn't you just take the wire and hook it through? Well, the reason is we wanna be able to hook this up and down as we're feeding so that, and I think I mentioned this earlier in the video, when you're feeding, you can just pour into the one side and it slides down so you're not fighting the chickens while they're trying to get in there. So we're gonna show you that quickly and then we'll be done. All right, first things first, drill the hole, just kind of make sure to center it. Again, this isn't finished carpentry, so you kind of get it close. Ream out the hole a little bit so it slides well. There we go. Do the same thing on the other side. There we go. And then we're going to cut some pieces of wire here. And for this, you can just kind of eyeball it depending on your setup. I know for us, we need them to be about 6 feet long. So I just make it about as tall as I am. And then that usually works pretty well. All right, so we've got our pieces of wire. We're gonna fish them through this hole that we drilled earlier and leave some slack. You'll see why in a second, but then twist that up nice and tight against the wood that we have there and give a couple twists there. Now, then we're gonna start winding this slack that we had in a tight coil around the other side, or around the part of the wire going up. And the reason we do that is because this gives us spacing for the lid to sit above the trough at the right height, and then it allows us to kind of size that up or down depending on where it needs to sit. So we'll put the lid on and we'll kind of eyeball it and see the gap, make sure the gap looks good. And right now, see, you got it about right there. So you're gonna maybe want to go a little higher with this one, just from experience of building these before. To have that sit at a good level. That looks like that might be about right there. So let's fish this through and see what we're working with. There you go.
Okay. So you see that sitting there now? When that's up, that's going to be about that high. And that actually might be a little too high now that I see it. So I'm going to lose some height on that. Let's see where we're at. And that's why you leave that extra. Once we get it to the spot where we want it, we'll clip it and call it good. Okay. Yeah, that looks about right. We'll do the other side and verify, but I think that's about good. Okay, that looks good. So last step then is to fish these turnbuckles through there. Again, just leave a little bit extra. You can adjust this when you get out to the tractor, and then just kind of wind them loosely around like that so they don't poke you in the eye when you're filling feed or something like that. So that's what you'll end up with. Obviously, we'll size this when we get out there, but that's pretty much it. We'll do the other side here quick. And that's it. This will go and hang in the tractor, something like that. And now we got a nice feeder for the chickens. There you go. Like I said, it's a little bit of a pain to build these, but less than 50 bucks for a feeder that's going to last basically forever and be better than really anything that I found that you can buy. Anything similar to this, like those handle ones that you see, are like 100 plus bucks to do. So worth your time to put one of these together, in my opinion. All right, so we got one hanging here, and I just wanted to show you this. Why we put the hooks on these things is because when you go to fill them, as you can see, I don't even have food. These guys are like 2 or 3 days away from actually getting processed, so they're huge, and they're already like all over me. If I had a scoop of food, they would be doing that. So what we do then is we hook the top loop up high, so that way this is slanted down, and we pour from one side that they can't get to. So then it slides down to the other side, and they run to that other side, and it lets us fill it without too much trouble. So it's by necessity that we have to have those hooks. So I would highly recommend having those turnbuckles when you do this. So we hope this farm hack has been helpful. Let us know in the comments. Is this something you've done, or is it something you see working for you? Would love to hear if you have any improvements on it, or things we could have done better. So yeah, let us know, and we'll see you on the next one.